My name's Simon Greenhill and my business is Daddy Funk Drums, which is a drum teaching and demonstration business for drumming and the art and enjoyment of drumming. I started playing drums when I was about 11, which was in 1976. My drum teacher was a very gruff South London teacher, and then you were made to play a snare drum. Well, in my case, I played a snare drum for a year and a half, consistently, no access to a drum kit, which there's no way I could get away with this now in my own lessons. But it was something that at the time, I'm kind of glad that he did it in a way, because it meant that I had these fantastic rudiments, and I'm rather pleased that I did my playing in that period, because it meant that my respect for all the different written forms and the way to read them, that it's there and that I can give that to my students. There's a good story where you'd never get away with this now, of course, but we had a tiny little room out the back of the music room, and tiny little room, drum kit, 2 snare drums, 2 little kids, you know, 2 11-year-old kids, and this incredibly gruff ex-army South London geezer talked like this. Dave Clifford, his name was, and he chain smoked through our entire lessons. So he'd be chain smoking, and his phrase was, "Don't make excuses, make time." The discipline of drumming and the ability to really connect with just one drum and a pair of sticks is something that can get a little bit lost with all the sort of fireworks and stick tricks and all these things that have come through since the early 2000s. And with the advent of YouTube and Vimeo and all these players doing these crazy things, it sort of can sometimes get forgotten. And I like making sure that there's a grounding for my students so that they've got the ability to play these fantastic rudiments that really are the foundation of everything as a takeoff point, as a springboard for what they can then achieve with it. The dynamic is the secret weapon of drummers, and the ability to be able to have such a strong focus as part of your playing all the time, it then enables you to be able to play really subtly or really explosively, but with this foundation of discipline which can take your playing to a whole different dimension and take good grooves, good beats and great ideas and nice fills, and by adding in this way of playing dynamically and this way of playing with light and shade and flow and movement, you can turn fairly straightforward grooves, fairly straightforward beats with fills and cymbal work into something really amazing, just with the way that you approach it, I think. So having moved to Birmingham in 2012, my now wife and I had to reignite the business from scratch. We wanted to almost reinvent it, so we both write and create the website, and it works from a drum room where there are 2 acoustic drum sets, so that I can play at the same time as any students. Currently, I'm looking at about 80% adult students, maybe more actually. So there's a small hardcore of children and teenagers that I teach, but I'm mainly lucky enough to teach adults for extended periods of time, so that a relationship is developed between myself and the person that I'm teaching, and we create a solid communicative way of working with each other that enables each individual student to grow and build on what they're able to achieve, and it all becomes this growing, quite exciting way of working. One of the acoustic drum sets, which is the one that I demonstrate on, was given to me by Yamaha, so it's an endorsement kit. They were very pleased with what I was achieving with the students down on the south coast and wanted to have an association with me as an educator. So I have that kit set up in the room that I play with various different cymbals. And then my main kit, which is a bespoke Orange County drum set that was made in California. That's the kit that I do the majority of my recordings and performances and those kind of things with. By having 2 acoustic drum sets with some soundproofing in the room and some sound reduction pads on the drums themselves, you end up with a situation where the student can come in and have a full lesson and oftentimes not have to get up from the kit, but really enjoy sitting and playing, and we can play together and sometimes improvise ideas together. So it becomes a situation where from the moment that you as a student walk into the room, that fantastic drum set is yours, and you do end up feeling like you have as much of a connection to it as I do in my working days. So that's an exciting thing, which I don't think you necessarily get with other drum teachers. I'm interested in the time period of the late 60s where rhythm really came into its own. There's quite a famous 4-bar break on the B-side of a well-known record by a band called the Winstons. The A-side won a Grammy. The B-side has this 4-bar drum break, which is called the Amen break. That one 4-bar break informed hip-hop through the late 70s and 80s, drum and bass in the mid-90s in this country. So that really fascinates me, the fact that it's an English form. And then jungle, and then dubstep, and then a modern thing that has come out of New Soul, which is called broken beats, which is quite an interesting mutation of rhythm. This is a lesson, a series of lessons that I teach to my more advanced students that takes somewhere in the region of 10 to 12 weeks, something like that, because there's a lot to deal with. And the idea is to show how all of this comes from the Amen break. I'm very pleased to have moved to Birmingham and now be married and happily married here and enjoying living here, because Birmingham and the West Midlands, they have a deep respect still for music and musicians. It seems everybody I meet in Birmingham can play some kind of instrument or has some friends that play in a band or that kind of thing. And if you go back, obviously some of the greatest bands in English pop and rock culture have come from Birmingham, and I think that it's a very important area for that. And I've really felt the difference bringing my business here. I've really felt that we're all like one big family of people who love music and respect how it makes us all feel, and it's in everyone's lives, and most people have great music collections and are wanting to share their thoughts on different musicians and different bands that inspire them. And you don't seem to come across people in Birmingham and indeed in the West Midlands who they go, oh, I don't like music. You never get that, you know. And in most people's houses, they're less interested in what's on television than, you know, what the latest download is that they've bought, or what their favourite CD or their favourite piece of vinyl is. So that's very exciting for me, to be in a society where people genuinely love music. It's made a big difference to Daddy Funk Drums. I have been in signed bands. I have done a lot of touring. I've done videos. I've had videos played on rotation on MTV. However, when it comes down to it, genuinely, my favourite thing to do is teach. I adore studio work. I'm now getting to do a lot more performance to camera and a lot more performance in front of people with the workshops and the drum clinics. But really, my passion is in the teaching. And I don't feel that I'm doing it because I have to do it. I don't feel I'm doing it because I can't do anything else. I can do all these various different things in the music industry, and I have, but I absolutely love the drum teaching, and that's why I do it 7 days a week, and that's why I will continue to do it, because it genuinely brings me joy from 11 o'clock in the morning to when I generally finish at about 9 o'clock at night. It's a fantastic job, and I'm very, very honoured to be able to do it.